Welcome and hello from Sandvine to all of you, our customers, partners, industry thought leaders. I'm Samir Marwa, Chief Solutions Officer at Sandvine, and I'm joined by my distinguished colleagues, Trish Crompton, our Senior Product Marketing Manager, and Atif Sajid, Senior Principal Solutions Manager. We are here to present a key topic of interest to our customers and industry at large. Today, we're really excited about not only going into the details of managing heavy usage, but to take you through the exciting journey we are embarking as an app QoE company. You may have heard us earlier in the year about the global trends we saw, and we presented those in our Global Internet Phenomena report. And there were some clear trends around terabyte usage, about video being everywhere, particularly in streaming and social media apps, new applications coming up in rankings due to metaverse and other factors. But one trend that was highly cited by our customers as well as analysts across the globe was the amount of traffic from the top 6 OTT players. The problem is getting worse with 5G and metaverse, and more complex applications are being introduced. This is creating the need to determine exactly what applications are going through the telecom networks, what is their usage, how they're performing, and this is becoming critical for business outcomes, whether those outcomes include planning, operating, optimizing, and monetizing networks, including heavy usage management that we will discuss today. Our fundamental differentiation in our segment and value delivery for our customers like yourselves is rooted in a very simple premise. Better accuracy delivers better outcomes. We are the best in our market at application identification accuracy and application QoE scoring. It is not just us saying it, but our customers have said so directly to us on why they buy our solutions over others. So Trish, if you can forward the slide, I want to walk you through some of the business challenges that we see our customers across the globe facing. The agenda we'll go through is walking you through those challenges, our solutions to address those, specifically diving into heavy usage management. We'll take you through some examples, and we'll finish it with a business case ROI. Okay, let's jumping into the industry challenges. Go ahead and forward. So let me walk you through some of the higher level challenges that our customers are facing across the globe. And this is a challenge and business model dynamics that's actually getting worse, not better. The problem of carrying OTT traffic is not new. But now that the traffic from just 6 players is close to 60%, the business model of spending continuous CapEx and also OpEx is no longer making sense. Our customers are looking for ways to drive ARPU. They're trying to drive the ARPU metric up, but at the same time, not be commoditized. Most have turned to competing for new customers, both subscribers and enterprises, based on quality of experience as well as the value they can provide to those customers. However, with aggregate OTT traffic from just the top 6 players now approaching 60% of the total traffic, our customers are really challenged with the burden of investing heavily to carry and deliver that traffic with currently very limited ability to monetize it. In addition to the CapEx and investment challenges of this growing dynamic, the end subscriber expectation on the delivery of QoE is continuously going up on the operator as they are the last mile delivery point to the device. In case of OTT traffic, our customers must invest more to keep up with the growth, but they have little visibility into what exactly this traffic is, and they struggle to understand it, manage it, or be compensated for it. In fact, the business model between OTT providers and operators is so upside down that cost estimates from a recent European customer shared with us indicate that the cost to an operator to carry OTT traffic is about $45 per subscriber per year across their multi-country network. This can mean up to 1/3 of their revenue going towards the cost of carrying OTT traffic. To further add to the operator financial and operational burden, their subscribers call into their customer care help desk referencing application performance concerns. For example, poor Netflix or Zoom or PlayStation application performance, and operators don't have visibility or tools to analyze this, to optimize that traffic, and to be able to monetize it towards addressing this business model. So for Sandvine, these challenges provide a significant opportunity for value delivery to our customers. And because of our technology heritage and innovation investments, we believe we are uniquely positioned to help our customers. Okay, next slide. Okay, now our portfolio provides the operators a tool set to help drive improvements in their upside down business model that we just talked about by recognizing exactly which apps are being consumed, what is the quality of those apps, and how to solve app QoE related problems through better planning, operating, benchmarking, heavy usage management, and monetization for subscribers and from OTTs. Sandvine's ability to identify and classify more than 2,500 applications at 95% plus accuracy, aggregating these applications across more than 12 classification categories, it provides operators the ability to analyze, optimize, and monetize this traffic, including IoT traffic, providing operators competitive positioning in terms of increasing QoE and reducing investment levels on a per subscriber basis. We see the challenges of OTT, both traffic volume and application identity, as a significant opportunity to determine our offerings in the marketplace and differentiate them while providing high ROI solution options to operators. Building additional capabilities into our ANI platform, Active Network Intelligence platform and software suite, we provide tools to our customers to see what was previously unseen. This enables our customers to solve more problems faster and optimize their networks to operate more efficiently as they serve their end subscribers and enterprise customers. Our portfolio is already the industry benchmark for identifying and managing app QoE, and with the additional organic product and GTM coverage investments we've made, we feel we're well positioned to help our customers with the challenges they face dealing with their OTT traffic. Now our portfolio helps analyze, optimize, and monetize through multiple use cases. Heavy usage management is the one we'll focus on today. And with that, I'll turn over to my colleague, Trish Crompton, to talk more about this.
Thank you so much, Samir. What a great introduction and a great way to start our discussion today. Before I get started though, if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to use the question box and we'll get to you guys at the end of today's session. But please do ask questions if you want to know more. So as Samir mentioned, application quality of experience is incredibly important. It helps determine how well the network is performing from the perspective of subscribers because it focuses on the applications that they truly care about. And we know that by focusing on QoE, we can ensure good customer satisfaction and it helps prevent churn. But it can also help with detecting congestion issues in the network as well as measure the effectiveness of congestion management policies. Which is what brings me here today to talk about congestion management, but specifically, we're going to take a look at heavy usage. So I've spent many years at Sandvine talking about congestion, and what I've learned is that there are only a couple of guarantees in life: death, taxes, and well, congestion. Congestion is a funny thing because it can be caused by a variety of sources. So it could be an overburdened location, a super popular bandwidth intensive application, it could be a bunch of inefficient TCP traffic, or it could be heavy usage. Now, although these are different sources, the impact to quality of experience is pretty much the same. So you're going to get QoE degradation for a significant number of subscribers across the network. The good news is, like many other forms of congestion management, heavy usage can be managed. And it can be managed in a way that ensures fairness and good quality of experience for the largest number of subscribers. Now, that should really be the overarching goal for managing heavy usage. But aside from the fairness, managing heavy usage can improve OpEx and defer CapEx, and it can also create additional revenue. So before we move on, I absolutely want to acknowledge that heavy usage is not a new topic by like any means. But what we're going to look at today is how it's evolved and what it looks like on networks in 2022. So to make sure that we're all aligned, let's actually start with what it means or what we consider to be heavy usage. Now, traditionally or generally speaking, it has followed this 80-20 rule, where you have like 20% of the subscribers utilizing up to 80% of the network. Now, obviously, this number differs from one network to the other, but this is the general rule of thumb that we've kind of operated from. It has also been synonymous with peer-to-peer traffic, and this is something that Sandvine has helped many customers in the past deal with on their networks. But heavy usage is a growing and evolving problem. And we have networks who are seeing a ratio that is far more disproportionate, where you have as little as like 5% of their subscribers consuming around 35 to 40% of the network resources. And the reason why this is happening is because today, everybody is technically a heavy user. And we see this at a global level where traffic has significantly increased year over year, starting from 2019 to 2020, where there was a 34% increase, and then again by a further 29% in 2021. Now, when you look at this from an average household perspective, it's come somewhere between 650 to 750 gigs per month, as reported at the end of 2021. So this inflated demand of the network is truly driven by our increased connectivity, our reliance on various applications for business, entertainment, and education. And then with the whole working from home trend over the last 2 years, all those industries that had not digitized any of their processes have gone ahead and done so, further increasing the reliance and demand on networks globally. And so the result is now you have this super blurry line between what a heavy user and a power user are. We covered this in our associated ebook, which we will provide for your attendance at the end of this webinar. We cover all the different types of heavy usage and users, but just to quickly highlight some of the main ones, we have abusers or SLA breaches. There's power users, there's gaming fanatics and video bingers. And if I'm being totally honest, I live in Sweden. It's very dark in the winter time. I'm very much a big video binger because there's nothing better to do. So there is this growing trend that we're all pretty much heavy users. So on the one hand, we have this network inflation, while at the same time we have the next generation of networks across various access types that are kind of promising to be able to handle this ever increasing demand and be free from congestion. It sounds so great. But if we look back historically, there is a precedent with every single tech turn. We see the same response from the market. If you build more, they will take more. And this is exactly what is happening. We see this across 5G networks in APAC, where the existing subscribers who are on 4G plans have now switched to 5G and are now consuming like 2.5 times the bandwidth in comparison to 4G. But when we're talking about heavy users are just one aspect. I stated earlier that heavy usage is or was synonymous with peer-to-peer traffic. But in fact, what we're seeing is that applications, which are becoming, as Samir said, far more complex, are contributing to heavy usage. For example, there are applications that will create multiple TCP connections in parallel, and the whole goal is to gain the maximum amount of bandwidth as possible. You also have to contend with dual stack devices, which will always consume far more bandwidth resources. And then you have other applications like video, which aren't exactly designed in a way that is friendly to the networks. And as Samir said, when these OTTs are dominating the traffic and the cost associated, it kind of becomes a little bit too much. So to truly run a network that prioritizes subscriber experience, so one that actually wants to be competitive, wants to deliver a good experience, it is paramount to accurately classify applications for so many reasons. But in this case, when you can accurately classify applications, this is a good and easy way to actually manage heavy usage and determine where the heavy usages come from. So video is one of the largest contributors to heavy usage. And every year we release our Global Internet Phenomena Report, and video continues to reign supreme. This year, it was reported to be around 53% of total global traffic, and it truly shows no signs of slowing down. Disney Plus is predicting a 10x growth for video demand in the next 2 years alone. And what I want you to bear in mind is that most video applications, with some exceptions, so Netflix, for example, is highly efficient. They've invested a lot in their codecs to get very efficient, but that's the exception. Most applications are actually designed to take the maximum amount of bandwidth, regardless of the device they're being consumed on. And when you look at this, where you have some networks where video is consuming up to 70% of the resources, just by managing video traffic, a lot can be achieved towards congestion management, or better yet, congestion aversion. Now, this is most dramatically demonstrated in a mobile network where subscribers stream their videos from their phone, and they don't need 1080 or 4K videos, because there's actually no perceived benefit due to the super small form factor. So that means you can actually deliver a streaming service at 720 at best, and subscribers will not even notice any sort of degradation in their experience, but you can save up to 30% of your bandwidth without impacting the quality of experience. So speaking of management, let's take a look at some traditional management methods. So these are some of the management methods that have previously been used to solve heavy usage in the past. And let's just start with capping. And capping all the users is problematic for a couple of reasons. It kind of just treats everybody the same. It doesn't really distinguish between a power user and a heavy user, and obviously there are nuances there. It's also not effective in addressing congestion in specific locations, because it ultimately just lacks the intelligence required to manage something as complex as heavy usage. And to be honest, it's just a very heavy-handed approach. And heavy-handed when it comes to optimization or any kind of network policies is not the best. Now, there's also capping by application, which seems like a good idea. And sure, it can help with congestion during peak times. But if you're doing quota-based plans, it can also hinder revenue, because the capping will occur even when there is no congestion. So then we also have quota tiering, and great, you can enable your marketing teams to promote different tiers and encourage different subscribers to move up to those tiers. And by no means is this a bad way, but in some highly competitive markets, quota-based plans are considered less attractive by some of the customers. And there's this issue around expectation. Subscribers feel like, I don't need to pay a premium for, in my mind, what is considered legitimate usage. And obviously the last one here, well, why don't we just increase the cost? Again, from a competitive perspective, subscribers are just going to look for a cheaper option. And then it's just going to be a race to the bottom. So on the whole, when we're looking at why these approaches, fall short or why they fail to really address heavy usage, is because whenever you're doing network optimization, you need to ensure that you're not doing it while wearing a blindfold. Your approach must be well thought through, backed by some sort of intelligence. It has to be granular, it has to be targeted, and it has to be able to produce the results you're looking for, which should be based on some clearly defined goals from the outset. And I want to be clear, when I say intelligence, because that's something at Sandvine we take very seriously, you should be able to determine the types of heavy usage, the who, the applications, the locations, and this also includes sites that are already congested that may need a more severe approach. So really, heavy usage is a complex problem, and this is why there is no one-size-fits-all solution. It differs from one network to the other. You could have your network, which might be 5 years old, and you've already crossed that threshold where any kind of proactive solution would be helpful. Like, that's no longer effective because there's already congestion, which means a far more reactive and far more aggressive approach is required in order to address it. On the flip side, you could have just deployed your brand spanking new 5G network, and instead of waiting for that stage to come where you've missed the opportunity to be proactive, you actually take the whole route of proactive management beforehand, which if you do this, it'll actually delay moving into a reactive phase for a while. And let's not overlook the fact that from network to network, applications are different, heavy usage patterns and subscribers are different, and so all in all, there's no one size fits all. And that's why at Sandvine, we have a multi-dimensional solution and a phased approach to dealing with heavy usage. And this starts with, first and foremost, aligning on goals. So ask yourself, why are you managing heavy usage? And this is a starting point to align what you're doing. Are you doing this to manage SLA breaches? Are you trying to get, make sure the ROI per user is better? Are you trying to optimize by location? Or it's as simple as, some service differentiation to upsell or upsize people's plans, creating that additional revenue with some personalization. Like, what is the goal? Because when we have a clear understanding of what the goal is, this will inform the type of approach or method that you're going to employ. But I want to make it very clear that heavy usage should not be an afterthought. It should be part of network planning from the outset. So great, we have the goals, we've determined them, and then comes our multi-phased approach. So like any Sandvine solution, the foundation is always the intelligence. That analysis piece is so big for us. And we want to understand exactly, by doing that analysis, what is going on with heavy usage, how it is impacting the network, and what's causing it. And once you do that, it's very easy it's a very easy win to go, okay, well, I have a video problem, so I'm going to do that. Or maybe we've determined that it's a specific profile of abuser, and then we can just address that particular group and make really smart policies to just address that part of the subscriber base. So really quick analogy here. When we get sick, we can, go to the doctor pretty quickly and say, doctor, I have this problem. And if you go early enough, maybe the most extreme thing they'll do is prescribe some antibiotics, but you take those antibiotics, everything clears up, you feel very healthy again, all is well. But sometimes some of us are stubborn and we don't always get to the doctor and we don't seek treatment, and we finally go in and the doctor says, well, I'm so sorry, like, we're gonna have to do surgery because we've kind of delayed and we've kind of put this off. Now, heavy usage is not that dissimilar. You're essentially having, high level policies, and you're moving to location specific, surgical treatment of congestion, because those high level policies, those easy wins have all been exhausted. And now you have like 70% of your network, yep, it's good, and 30% is now getting congested. And at some point in time, it's heavily congested. And that means you now have to go individually to those sites and act accordingly rather than just dealing with heavy usage. So I want to make it very clear, far better to be proactive versus reactive. And before we move on, I just want to highlight the fact that analysis is an ongoing activity. It's not a one and done. It's very much trying to understand how heavy usage is changing and evolving on your network. And after applying or using different methods, how well is the problem being resolved? So this is our heavy usage management solution, and it's comprehensive. And when you're looking at deploying it, it'll be a combination of at least 2 or more of Sandvine's use cases, because it will be specific to your heavy usage needs or goals. So you have like at least heavy usage analysis with maybe heavy user management if you have like an abuser problem, or you have intent-based congestion management for either fixed or mobile if it's kind of you need to be more reactive. If you're looking for service differentiation, then it would be heavy usage analysis and some of our monetization use cases. So we kind of have it covered across the board depending on your goals. So with heavy usage analysis, subscriber service analysis is the jumping off point. That intelligence that comes from deploying Sandvine is super important and powerful. So we start off with subscriber service analysis, which gives us a great overview of what's happening in the network from the perspective of subscribers. It helps to answer key questions around subscribers, such as like how data hungry they are, what applications are the top ones for them, how are the different plans performing, what are the different devices that are popular, and most importantly, how is the quality of experience. It will also actually segment out different types of users, so it could be like light, moderate, heavy, power, and so you start to get an understanding like, hey, I have a heavy usage problem. It's a great jumping off point for a deep dive, which is our custom reporting, which offers a lot of flexibility to answer those key questions around heavy usage in a much deeper manner than the overview that you get from subscriber service analysis. It helps identify different things like top users, different behavioral patterns, whether it's a location issue, understand the different devices, or any kind of trends from an hourly, daily, or weekly perspective, and you just get a better understanding of exactly what's happening from a heavy usage perspective on your network. So as I mentioned, once you've done this analysis and you've determined exactly what's going on, you can start to take specific action. So let's look at video streaming management. Now, we can manage video resolutions by different attributes such as application, device, time of day, location, or pretty much a combination of all of those. And we do this with, even though most video services are actually encrypted, because our ANI classification is really strong, and we use machine learning to still classify our traffic. So when you have video streaming management, the other way it can be used is to actually create differentiated plans. So you could actually offer a more premium plan for those who are looking for a high resolution, they really want the high quality. But you can also just target general watching based on QoE to be at a lower level of resolution, because it takes into considerations all those attributes that I just mentioned. It helps in avoiding congestion during peak hours. It makes sure that there's good QoE for everybody. It helps with innovative plans. It's a very comprehensive video solution. But instead of looking at just, the application side of it, maybe that applications aren't heavy and that's not what's driving heavy usage on your network, but maybe it's actually heavy users themselves. So we can look at some of the behavior, and Sandvine actually offers really powerful, flexible shaping capabilities to help achieve fairness among all the different types of users. And you can see on my chart here, there's light, average, power, heavy. And so it's all about creating fairness. But let's be very clear here. I want to point out, if you look at the middle column where it says fair split, we're fairly allocating the network resources among the different types of users. But what we're not taking into consideration here is that the number of heavy users in this section is a lot smaller than any other segment of users. So what's actually fair is to take a targeted approach and ensure that the smallest amount of users, which are the heavy ones, actually get a proportionate amount versus a disproportionate amount for the size of this segment of users. So because of Sandvine, we can actually segment different groups. We don't want to actually, punish power users, because we can separate those out from, a heavy user. Maybe at a later stage with our power users, we might want to right-size their plans, but we really want to just ensure that heavy users aren't actually impacting the entire network, and it's really fair for everybody. That's the whole goal. And you really just don't want to be building a network for heavy users. You want to ensure that you're building a network for pretty much every other flavor of user. So as I mentioned before, when all options for proactive management have been exhausted, then we need to take a far more drastic approach. So for mobile, we have our intent-based congestion management, where it delivers RAN congestion management. This method is based on closed loop automation. It monitors and controls subscriber and application QoE. It accounts for RAN dynamics. It will iteratively and continuously learn and enforce the operational capacity of a cell base, of a cell or a base station, and that is the amount of traffic a RAN resource can deliver at that moment to its active users with actual good QoE. It will actually support, greater flexibility, enforcing rules just based on heavy users. And if you can see my chart here, with this solution, we're able to actually move down heavy users and move them down and to the right. So these suffering users can actually move over to the left. And you can see the size of the bubbles here, like it's disproportionate, the number of heavy users who are taking up the volume, and the poor suffering users, are a huge amount of people, and they need to be moved over. So the whole idea is that this is used in times of congestion, when there is congestion on the network. And the great thing about Sandvine's deployment is that it can be used strategically. So if you have a very busy location that's constantly congested, you can absolutely deploy this solution in that hotspot and address the heavy usage there. We also have intent-based for fixed. Now, this again is a closed loop and automated solution. The great thing about it is it does not require manual intervention. The same we saw with, all the previous versions of any kind of congestion management solutions, very labor intensive, just trying to fine tune the different policies to get it exactly right. And again, going back to the classification of applications, if you're not classifying your traffic well and you have these very advanced congestion management policies, then then they're going to be wrong, and they're going to be punishing the wrong people, the wrong activity, or the wrong usage. So this one does not require manual intervention, and it actually uses our app QoE to set targets based on each application category of how they should be performing from a minimum and maximum threshold. So it automatically detects when there's congestion and uses our advanced shaping policies to ensure that the right QoE is delivered for that particular application category, and it is constantly repeating the process, hence the closed loop. So Sandvine's congestion management options, although they're very reactive from a heavy usage management perspective, they have become very advanced and sophisticated. They make it far more easy and better equip you to actually handle the complexity of heavy usage. Let's take a quick look at some customer examples. Now, we have been implementing and helping different customers with managing heavy usage, either as its own kind of standalone deployment or as part of a whole bunch of policies to kind of manage congestion as a whole, because like I said, there's different sources of congestion. Now, we have a couple of examples here. So let's look at the fixed first. So the first one is a very large fixed network, and it was really interesting because they were monitoring daily usage for heavy applications like P2P. And the reason why it was interesting is because specific application types, those were shaped if a certain threshold was crossed. But the interesting thing is they said, we don't want to touch any of the promotional plans. So they were recognizing that any new subscriber coming to the network, they did not want to punish any type of behavior because they wanted to ensure that there was a good honeymoon phase. So I just want to show the flexibility of our solution here, that you can do these different types of policies. Now we have a medium and large network here. So it was interesting as well, the daily usage was 3 gigs and anything over that was considered heavy. Now, if you use more than 3 gigs for 3 days in a row, so 3 strikes and you're out, then you were tagged as heavy, and specific application types were shaped during just times of congestion. So if there was no congested locations, or there's no congestion in the network, then you were perfectly fine to continue as you please. But as soon as congestion hit, those particular users who were considered heavy were automatically shaped. Now, the interesting thing here is that this customer understood that sometimes we're going to have heavy days, but the fact that it was 3 days in a row suggests a pattern, that it wasn't, a one-off thing, but there is a pattern of behavior there. So understanding the behavior associated with the usage will help define the policies and approaches that you need to take in order to actually solve the heavy usage on your network. Okay, so mobile example here. We actually had a billing team, and they were identifying heavy usage just by looking at the CDRs every month. And then they were assigning a special charging characteristic via radius, and they were assigning it to heavy users. Now, when these codes were assigned, every time that user would start a session, those sessions were directed or terminated at the P gateways where there was our solution, so they could be managed for their throughput. So this was half an offline kind of approach, but you can still see that they were trying to be strategic and selective with how they dealt with heavy usage. Now, in terms of return on investment and what that actually looks like, we're happy to walk this through with you on a one-on-one session. But we did look at a customer after deploying heavy usage management, and they were a fixed wireless deployment, and we just saw a huge impact where over the time period of 24 hours, there was 25 to 40% improved throughput. The QoE score actually improved by almost 40%. The average latency decreased, by 20, 35 milliseconds. And for gamers, that's critically important to get the latency down. And then the packet loss also decreased by 50%. So that's a huge set of savings there. So in terms of the ROI, like I said, we're happy to meet one-on-one and go through the exercise on the right-hand side. But we just want to show that there's power and there is ability to gain back bandwidth savings on the network just by managing heavy usage. You're improving it across all the KPIs that we care about, which is throughput, packet loss, and latency, which is how we determine QoE. And this is what subscribers care about because this is what actually impacts their application experience. Now, we will be, like I said, making our ebook available after this session. We have more details on here. As I mentioned, we'd love to have one-to-ones. So if you're looking for more details, you would like a demo, please reach out and we'd be more than happy to sync. But I just want to say thank you so much for attending today's session. Atif, do we have any questions?
Yeah, Trish, we have a few questions. So there was one question by Nigesh. He's asking if the 650 or to 750 gigabyte per month usage stats that we showed, is it specific to US and North American market?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Yeah, I think it is North American market. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other question is from David. He's asking if the streaming stats, which is close to 55-56%, is it more of a wireline streaming stats, and do we have a way to compare it with 5G streaming?
Well, you're the 5G expert, Atif.
Yeah, so I think so the stats that we have showed you are coming from a mix of networks. Hopefully in a year or two, when Sandvine will be able to see more and more 5G networks coming on board, we should be able to have separate stats for 5G networks also. So currently, the stats that you looked at are coming from a mix of network that we use for our producing our global internet phenomena report. There's another question, how do you distinguish between heavy users from power users? So I can take that. So Brian, our solution is very flexible. And as you know, there's no one definition of what is considered heavy and what is considered power. A network with a lot of bandwidth and resources available may allow their consumers to spend or consume as much resources as they would, and they would still not consider them heavy. But networks with limited amount of resources would definitely treat a heavy user or a power user or a heavy user differently. So our solution is flexible. We can actually configure the policies according to what customers are interested in. If you think that 3 gigabyte per hour is considered a heavy usage, you can do so. But if you think 5 GB per day is considered heavy, you can do so. So we have the metering possibilities from hourly to daily to weekly to monthly, which means that you have a lot of flexibility in terms of who do you consider a heavy user. If you think that there are certain applications, if a consumer is using those applications that is considered heavy, then you can actually use that application dimension in that also while counting the bytes or metering the usage. So it's very flexible solution. It's you define what do you consider a power user or a heavy user. Another question from Susanna. how frequent are the intervals do you use to classify traffic? Milliseconds?
Yeah, so do you want to take that, Atif?
Yep, I can. So yeah, we classify traffic on a regular basis, meaning that the time the session starts, we start looking into certain KPIs, especially the speed and the bandwidth. That is the most critical KPI of all, and the reason is that most of the internet traffic is spiky in nature. So we measure subscriber bandwidth every 250 milliseconds, which means that we do not allow even a spike to pass without us noticing that the subscriber has actually gone to a certain spike by consuming certain resources at that moment. We also do measuring our packet loss and latency every 5 seconds. And this does both all these KPIs like bandwidth, latency, and packet loss. This is constantly measured throughout the lifetime of the session. It is not that it happens once at the time when the subscriber is connecting or the session is connecting, but actually we continue to measure it throughout the lifetime of that session. If that lifetime is ours, we will continuously report the bandwidth, latency, packet loss, and jitter every few seconds or every few milliseconds. So it is very consistent. As long as the classification, we classify the traffic without having any impact on the latency or the delay that we add in the traffic. So there is almost insignificant amount of delay that we add. Actually, it's not even considered a delay when we are classifying the traffic. So it's pretty real time. One more question from Turker. Can we access this webinar later? YouTube maybe?
Yeah, we'll be making this available on our website. We'll send out follow-up emails. So if you did subscribe, we'll be putting it in your inbox, or you can find it on our website.
All right, one more question. Again, this is about the recording of the session. So yep, we already answered that. Okay, this one very specific question. Does 250 millisecond apply to PTS or Active Logic? So yeah, that's a good question. That's our new Active Logic platform that I'm talking about. And we have pretty much most of our development and R&D is going towards our next gen platform that is Active Logic, and all the supporting platform that is working with Active Logic also. So I think the other question was, are both this level of granularity capability? So yeah, I already answered, Leon. This measurement sampling that I was talking about, 250 millisecond for bandwidth, 5 millisecond for 5 second for latency and throughput, sorry, for packet loss, that is applicable to Active Logic only. All right, one more question. So application QoE is not standardized. How does Sandvine provide these metrics? Samir, you want to take it maybe?
Yeah, sure. So it is not standardized, which is true. So we're just becoming a benchmark for this, for application QoE. As you know, historically, voice has been measured through MOS. There were several companies that came up with video MOS type of scoring. Now we're taking it to the next level for all application QoE scoring. So we're really becoming a market maker in this space, and we want to be a benchmark in the industry for app QoE.
I think that was the last question, because the other question from Nagesh is also related to, while VoIP MOS is well defined, but not the video QoE or web QoE. So yeah, Samir already answered that. That's the last question I had, Trish.
Great. And I think with that, we can close today's session. So just want to thank everybody for attending. We'll be following up with your copy of the ebook. Please reach out if you'd like to have a one-to-one session, and we'll be posting this recording on our website. So until next time, we hope to see you at our next Sandvine webinar. Take care.